Almost every day, someone is charged with a crime against a disabled person. Half are violent crimes. This is David Askew, who collapsed and died after years of torment from people in his neighbourhood. This is Brent Martin, a trusting 23-year-old with learning disabilities. He was punched, kicked and stripped half naked by people he called friends. They left him like this. He died in hospital. And this is Michael Gilbert, who was kept as a slave for 10 years before he was murdered and dismembered. Fiona Pilkington committed suicide and unlawfully killed her daughter Francesca, unable to bear another moment of persecution. No one knows how many more people are suffering in silence. All these people have suffered abuse in their own homes, within their own society, with people who they thought were their friends. There are 1.5 million people with a learning disability in the UK. 9 out of 10 will have experienced abuse. So far this year, 21 disabled people have been killed.
Oh my God! Someone's just come and put my window through in my house.
Someone's broken your window?
Yeah. We've had the worst time of our lives in the last couple of months.
I'm thinking that if the day comes I can't manage, my daughter and I will go together.
I feel scared, shaky, like a leaf.
I'm Rosa Monkton. I have a daughter with Down syndrome, and I campaign to bring about change for people with learning disabilities. Last year, I made a film about the issues faced by parents of disabled children. I was shocked at the extent of hate crime against them. Intolerance and brutality seem to have become commonplace in their world, and I want to explore why we allow this to happen. While making the first film, I met Asha and her sons. Garen's elder brother, Callum, has cerebral palsy and needs 24-hour care. Garen helps look after him. Not easy, is it, for you?
No, it's not really easily.
When I spent time with him alone, I became acutely aware of how the hostility of others towards his brother's disability is making his life impossible. What's the hardest thing?
Trying to help my mum sometimes, it's really hard.
Because actually, what you want more than anything else is for your mother to be looking after you rather than you looking after her, don't you?
Yeah.
As we make our way back to Garen's house, a gang of local children hurl verbal abuse. And they all live around here. You just have to ignore them, don't you? I was shocked at what Garen has to put up with on a daily basis. How's life on the estate? How's it for you, Garen? No.
It's okay, it's getting a bit better, but it still keeps on going, doesn't it, Mum?
We tried to get out a bit, well, haven't we? You tried to walk home the other day and got abuse.
But
so he doesn't want to walk home anymore.
But
I got hit. That was the worst thing that happened to me for a long time.
Punched
Garen's only got punched 3 times.
in the street. And that was just only outside of our house, wasn't it, Mum?
And that was really horrible.
And did you know the people who did it?
Yeah.
So we live basically like prisoners. We live our whole life either in the house or completely away from the estate.
And how's Garen? How's life at school? Is that any better?
No, really, it's still hard. I find it extremely hard still. Don't know.
We had a lot of problems last year. What kind of things they say to you again?
They say I have a spastic brother and stuff like that. It's just nasty stuff.
The abuse started within weeks of them moving into the area 4 years ago. There were known antisocial families on the estate who targeted Asha and her children. Things got so bad, Asha set up a CCTV camera on the house to catch them in the act. She also kept a video diary. After Asha and a group of residents gave evidence in court, the family causing most of the problems was evicted. Just 3 days later, her car tyres were slashed. A month after that, someone stoned her car, and in Christmas 2008, a brick was hurled through the window.
You can see the brick there, and you can see here that they have smashed the telly. I'll tell you that we got for Christmas. Look at the glass down here. And that's my little boy there. He's very shocked and very upset. Couldn't believe it.
Totally pissed off.
Garen, please don't use bad language. Very, very broken community. There just seems to be sort of us and them. You know, a brick through someone's window and a car being smashed up is not a big deal around here. It's just how it goes.
These kind of crimes can be dismissed by the authorities as low-level antisocial behaviour, yet the daily reality can be unbearable. Every week there are news reports of so-called low-level incidents which later develop into more violent and sinister crimes.
How old is Callum? 14. We have to live with a situation whereby you never know if they're having a bad day. Are they drunk? Are they going to kick off? Is Garen going to be all right? What happens as he walks down the road? Are they going to have him?
After 4 years of campaigning, all Asha has managed to achieve is 3 antisocial behaviour orders. As a single mother with a disabled son, she's a soft target. And it's clear how all this makes Garen feel.
Depressed. Upset. Angry.
Can't give in.
No.
You can't. Because you know what? They win. You mustn't let these people win.
No.
You're so strong, Garen. You'll find the strength.
I'm not.
You are. You are.
Not strong.
Asha has been brave enough to stand up to the abusers. The families concerned may have been evicted, but she still faces trouble from others on the estate. 10 days after I left, Asha had another incident. Someone hurled stones at her house and jumped on a neighbour's car. The 18-year-old responsible has been ordered not to come anywhere near Asha or the estate for 2 years. Good. Does it taste all right, even though it looks a bit strange?
Lovely.
My daughter Domenica is 15. She has learning difficulties which make her vulnerable, particularly to what's now termed mate crime, being taken advantage of by so-called friends. As she gets older, I've got to plan for what happens to her when Dominic and I are dead. By then, she needs to be living in a place where she is protected and can make friends.
Over my face. Sometimes I've been dancing and it's really good. And I perform or just an accent and my mum may see me. And my mum said I was pretty good.
For the past few decades, the trend has been towards care in the community, but I have real concerns about how that works in practice. Someone who's living in the community and having real problems is Christopher Burke. He has a condition called hydrocephalus, more commonly known as water on the brain. This means he has a learning difficulty, and physically he does look different. It's made him a victim of constant hate crime, leaving him isolated, vulnerable and scared. Yet Christopher could read when he was 2, has 17 qualifications in IT and a passion for music.
Is computers. I can build them, repair them, program them, and I loved writing music for years now, except the problem I always had was mixing it, and Hastings being about 10 years behind the rest of the world, there are no music mixing classes for anyone over 25. So, believe it or not, I had to go to Shoreham, which is like 3 hours away. When they had one lesson so far, and this is my first homework piece.
Christopher is 46. 20 years ago, he moved with his family to Hastings. In those days, it was a place where councils rehoused people displaced by the rapid development of inner London. Today, it has a high concentration of unemployed, poor and vulnerable people.
Hastings dumped on it I do my shopping in Eastbourne because if you go shopping in Hastings and there's people around looking for money, they get the change off you one way or another. In Hastings, they're all on drugs and drink, all looking for somebody to have a go at. I feel I have to be on my guard all the time, just in case anything happens.
Every time he goes out, Christopher makes sure he has a pocket full of change. It's almost like paying protection money to people he knows just to get down the street.
Where have you just come from?
Oh,
As he walks by the beach, a man steps out and confronts Christopher. He asks him for money.
Please, come on.
This is a normal occurrence for Christopher, and he knows from experience that if he refuses, he'll be open to attack.
That's not the same people. Well, no, I'm not.
That bloke with the orange beard, I asked you to give him three quid to get past him.
What's the matter, Chris? Is it making you scared?
No, it's nothing to do with that. It's just I just see myself spending my whole life here. And when I'm walking around Hastings, it's a sheer frustration of it all just gets to me.
We've all got used to being harassed for change. The difference is that for Christopher, this is like a daily mugging. And it hasn't been any better in the homes he has lived in. Christopher has, in the last 8 years, been rehoused 5 times due to abuse from his neighbours and people around him. After being burgled and intimidated in his previous flats, he was rehoused into sheltered accommodation. It's not ideal for Christopher, as all the other residents are elderly.
Hi.
Christopher,
Pleased
hello,
to meet you.
I'm Rosa.
Pleased to meet you.
How do you do? Thank you for letting me come and see you.
Okay.
Christopher, would you mind if I took off my shoes and sat curled up? I'm
Yeah,
sort of
come on,
happier
sure.
talking that way. Is that all right?
Yes. Lovely toenail.
Oh, thank you very much. Very observant. Thank you. How long have you lived here?
A year and a half.
So where did you live before that?
Before I was in St Leonard's. That area of St Leonard's is all drugs and alcoholics. While I was working in Seaview, I used to work in there voluntarily. Girl came in and shot boiling water all over me.
Ah.
That's both legs.
That is terrible.
It like that. That's after about 5 skin grafts.
Oh dear Lord.
That was 3 months in the East Grinstead Burns unit.
What happened to your head there?
That was a couple of months, about 6 weeks ago. Bloke that outside cost cutters.
It's terrible.
And he had chunky rings on, and he just smacked my head with the chunky rings on. How I lost my teeth was, a bloke comes up to me and goes, "What's it like being a retard then?" And so I went to him. That's what I was about to ask you the same thing. And he pushed me, so I fell over, and he stomped my face with Doc Martens on.
Oh, Christopher, your life. The girl who burnt his leg was given a short prison sentence. The other 2 attackers were never caught. Although he shouldn't have to live in sheltered accommodation, the council consider it to be the safest option. Living here simply compounds his isolation, and going outside leaves him vulnerable. Abuse of people with learning difficulties is not confined to areas of urban deprivation. This is Cockermouth, a beautiful town which a year ago survived devastating floods. It's a close-knit community. You'd think it would be a safe place for someone like Kelly Cowperthwaite, but it's not. She was born with a chromosomal imbalance. This means she finds it difficult to understand things and to express herself clearly. Her learning disability has left her with few friends, so she spends most of her time on her own. Aged 37, she lives in her own flat, although her parents are nearby.
If you come through to the kitchen, you can see where Kelly lives. It's not far, and we can see it from the window. That's the building over there, out of the back. It's the cream building with the maroon window frames. Kelly has phoned me and said, Mum, you'll have to come and help me. I can't get out of the building. There are kids outside. And so I have to go and chase them all away. So I do a lot of toing and froing. Yeah. Sometimes in the middle of the night. But it's all part of the job.
Kelly has lived here for the last 7 years, but she is still very dependent on her mother Sue for her safety. Since leaving school herself, Kelly has been tormented by generations of school children. It's become almost a local rite of passage for them. While we're filming, a group of teenage boys spot Kelly and make fun of her. We overhear them referring to her as Kelly Mong. It's depressingly familiar for Kelly, and it happens to her all the time. They know she will rise to the bait.
What do you say about me? Come a bit closer and I want to hear it. Come closer, I want to hear it.
Even when I'm with Kelly, it can happen. She gets called names, people start shouting. Either chanting her name, which is a favourite of them, Kelly, 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 or just Kelly, Kelly. And you stop and you think, what can I do? There's 10, 15 children over the other side of the road doing this. What do I do?
They call me a fat git. I've been bullied in the pubs. Sometimes they follow me home.
A favourite word they use, though, is mong. And I believe most of the general public won't understand what that means or why it would be offensive. Well, can I just say that mong is equivalent to calling a black person the N-word.
The abuse from school children is considered low level, but it can get serious.
Some of the more severe incidents, somebody threw a knife at her, somebody drove a car up onto the pavement at her, people have threatened her, somebody kicked her once. Clothes been burned with cigarettes, spat on her hair, her clothing. She's had coke poured over her, drinks knocked out of her hand, chips knocked out of her hand.
I just wish it was over so I can get on my life.
Kelly's parents have turned to the police, but it hasn't made any difference.
The system doesn't have a place for this. The system doesn't work. There's nowhere for them to take it.
When all the investigation's done and all the questions are asked, it's a dead end.
Yeah.
That makes it frustrating for us.
If you don't have a witness, if you don't have someone to corroborate what's happened, and there's no forensic evidence, it's one word against another. That's what we've heard over and over again. It's her word against theirs.
Every single incident is important.
Yeah.
Because it affects your life.
Yes. And it's just, it's wearying, it's tiring.
There is no legal definition of a disability hate crime, as there is for racial discrimination. If there is proof the crime has been motivated by a person's disability, it's taken into consideration during sentencing. Kelly's mother has been dealing with this abuse for over 20 years. But in Canterbury, it's a frightening new experience for another mother. Alison's son, Angus, was diagnosed with autism at 2 years old. But when he reached his teens, his behaviour made him a target.
Angus comes back from boarding school today, and there's always some sort of trepidation of him coming home.
Hello. How are you?
How was school?
It was good.
How are you in your hat? You're not a guinea pig. Yeah. How was school? What's this? NYPD cop is Angus.
Yeah.
You made that, did you?
Yeah.
He's now 14, and the local authority pays for him to go to a specialist boarding school for autistic children.
Have we got anything?
Oh, I sneaked my gun in there to be James Bond.
Well, you're not James Bond. We have our behaviour chart. So where are we going to put it?
In the kitchen.
In the kitchen.
Usually,
I think we're going to have to stick it on the wall, on the cupboard though, aren't we?
His condition means he can be difficult and often behaves inappropriately. Some local children have seized on this and provoke him with taunts.
This is my room. My PlayStation. All sorts of things in my room. A gun. Shoot. Sit with my enemies.
Who are your enemies?
The ones up on the road are enemies.
Why is that?
Because they are nasty people up on the road. They say nasty things, all sorts of things.
And when they say these horrible things to you, how do you feel?
Very, very angry.
And do you say anything back to them?
Yes.
What do you say to them?
Go away, leave me alone.
But they haven't left him or Alison alone. Rubbish, eggs and condoms have been thrown at the house. After Angus was subjected to a particularly offensive bout of verbal abuse earlier this year, Alison called the police. Under the Public Order Act, a 13-year-old child was eventually banned from the estate. Although the police responded well, it hasn't solved the problem. Angus still can't play in his neighbourhood for fear of being picked on.
No, we don't go unless you bring that back, please. Right, we don't go anywhere then. Can you go and put it by the bin? Keep low in the boat. Can you move up a bit?
For Angus's first day home, Alison has planned a boat trip to keep him occupied and out of trouble.
That's what you did when you were a baby when we came on here.
Oh yeah. Do you remember?
No, none of that. None of that. Because we're going to behave nicely, aren't we?
Yeah.
The challenge is going out with him anywhere is the unpredictability, and you never really know what he's going to do. And the fact that we have to go everywhere with a gun.
Oh.
And I think we decided that a small green one was better than a big yellow one.
Fish skirt.
No, that could have hit him. That's not very nice, is it?
Another one.
Let's try to keep a lid on it before our behaviours develop into something a little bit more sinister, which they can do quite quickly. And things like... Stop. No. That's silly, isn't it? Stop.
Am I revolting?
Well, no, but you can behave like that sometimes.
Rocking.
No rocking. No standing, no rocking.
I want the boat tip over.
Well, yes, and the man has to balance as well.
Oh, make him go in the water.
No. I want you to be sensible and not get silly.
Revolting child I am.
When Angus loses his gun in the water, the mood changes.
I want to jump in.
No, you're not jumping in.
What, will I drown?
No, you're not jumping in.
Yes, I am.
Oh, don't dare. Right, I think we're going to get control.
I need my gun.
No.
I need my gun.
My worry is what Angus will do when his mother isn't around. It's a constant worry for parents like us. How to protect our children from themselves. As they grow up, we have the added fear of the harm others might inflict.
Are we going to get another one?
Yes, we'll get another one. But you're going to have to behave, aren't you?
So dumb.
Oh my God. No, someone's just come and put my window through in my house.
Someone's broken your window?
Yeah, about 5 minutes ago.
Not you did that. Just about here. Cam was sitting.
Unbelievable. This is what you get for standing up to a whole load of nasty yobs. They just keep coming after you. They won't stop.
The latest attack on Ash's house changes everything. Up to now, she has resisted the council's offer to move her, because her house has, at long last, been specially adapted for Callum. But the perpetrators are getting bolder. This attack happened in broad daylight. I'm concerned about the effects of this latest incident on the family, especially Garin.
Hi, Rosa.
Garin.
Hi. As you can see there.
Oh, my goodness.
Up on the window.
I thought that was the rain, but it's not.
No,
it's shattered, isn't it?
It has. It's shattered. It was only like 2 days ago now.
I can't believe it.
I know. It's cracked right up on the left-hand corner. It's okay to touch because we've got double glazing.
Yeah.
But it's just cracked right up there.
That's terrifying, though.
It isn't stopping. We don't know what to do now. Like, it's just... I feel really scared. So it's just... I feel it's all my fault now.
How could it possibly be your fault?
Don't know. I feel like I've wound them up somehow or something like that.
You've done absolutely nothing. All you've done and all you are doing is being an incredible brother and a very loving son. In very difficult circumstances.
Yeah.
Don't take it on yourself, sweetheart. It's wrong. There's quite enough going on here without you feeling guilty. Will you try?
I'll try, but that's what I feel like.
It cannot continue like this. It is so not right for you, but for Garin particularly. It's awful.
Well, it's destroying us. It's absolutely just... Garin's got no childhood. I mean, this will be his childhood. A third of his life has been spent with abuse, with violence, and we've had the worst time of our lives in the last couple of months.
I would have thought it should have stopped. The local council, the local police, the local housing association should have been shamed into actually getting their act together and, you know, sorting it. But it seems to me that nobody is prepared to take responsibility, and that is always the problem. There's layers of bureaucracy, there's hundreds of agencies involved. Negotiating through this is a minefield for anyone, let alone distressed families who have a right to live in safety like everyone else. We can resort to the law, but that will not prevent it happening over and over again. We need a justice system that provides a strong deterrent and recognises the devastating effects of this abuse. What's worse is the victims are some of society's most vulnerable people. I'm taking Garin on a day out, away from home. If you could wave a wand, what would you do? What would you change?
Well, I don't know really. Where we live, maybe?
I think your mum is doing a brilliant job, you know, in fighting back.
I think we'll always be victims.
I don't think so, Garin.
I think we will. I don't think we will if we move house or something.
So that's something positive to look forward to, you know, to get off that estate and move into a different house away from all the trouble.
Because you can't change the past, but you can change the future.
Exactly, exactly. There is a small light at the end of the tunnel, as Asha has now agreed with the council that they will be moved away from the trouble. Whilst they find suitable accommodation, the council is putting up 5 more cameras around their house. Are you all right coming down the steps? Are you sure?
Right. I just hate having nothing to hold on to.
Yeah. As I spend more time with Christopher, he begins to open up. It's lovely. This is beautiful here, isn't it? It is. It's so lovely, isn't it? And if there's one thing that you could change about your life, what would it be?
My face. So people stop noticing it and saying things about it and sort of notice me instead.
I can't believe they don't. You've got the kindest face. You really have.
Kindest one. I look like an orc.
You don't. Well, let's make the most of being out and go and have a cup of tea, shall we, or something? I think would be nice. You all right?
Yeah. Yeah, fine. Sorry, I got a bit too...
You don't need to apologise. I mean, how could you not? Through the work I do with various charities, I've met many families who are at risk and subject to hate crime. I realise how fortunate I am in being able to provide a supportive and protective environment for my own daughter Domenica. That should be the right of every parent of a child with learning difficulties. We live in a society which is based on usefulness, efficiency and power. And when you look at someone like Domenica, you know, she's not useful, she's not powerful. But what she has is something which you really can't put a value on. It's humanity stripped to the bone. It's the essence of all the things that matter. It's the innocence that we have all lost. And if that isn't worth fighting for, to protect, I don't know what is. You know, seeing her now, what's Domenica's life going to be like in 10 years' time when she's 25? Where will she be? She can't still be living at home because that's not right for her. I've come to talk to Alison about how she is planning ahead for Angus's future.
This is Angus. Would you like to meet Rosa?
Yeah. Hello, Angus. How do you do?
Fine.
Very nice to meet you. Like, very smart you're looking. Very smart jacket.
Mm-hmm. But not always appropriately dressed because people stare.
Yeah, I think you look good.
He does.
Yes.
They all know that he has a disability.
Of course they do.
And I feel sad for him because he can't go out.
And then what happens, you know, Angus grows up, these local teens will grow up. Angus will then be out in the community somewhere without you to protect him. So then what happens?
He will always be with me.
But he won't.
I know.
He won't and he can't.
I know.
He can't be. But he has to have a life without you.
He does, which I'm
somewhere where he feels very secure for when he's an adult and for when you're not around.
I know.
And it's heartbreaking to even contemplate that moment, isn't it?
Well, obviously, as you can see, I haven't.
Yeah.
But I want him to do whatever he can, really.
Absolutely. You want him to fulfil his potential, whatever that may be.
Yes.
And to be as independent as it's possible to be, but in the knowledge that he is going to be safe. And this is the issue.
Mm.
Some people may never be able to live independently. Kelly hasn't truly managed it because it just isn't safe for her. The burden of her care still rests on her parents. And talking to Kelly and Sue, I can see how the persistent nature of hate crime eventually takes its toll.
It's killing me all the time and it's giving me nightmares. It's making me ill, stressed out, and having another breakdown.
I'm thinking that if the day comes I can't manage, my daughter and I will go together. And it's awful when that crosses your mind, you know. That shouldn't have to. We must be the only group of parents who actually hope their children die before we do. And that's an awful thing to think. And it's because we know nobody's going to care for them properly. We know it's not going to be there.
How long did you do that for? I find it shocking and upsetting to hear Sue consider such drastic measures.
Kelly was living in a sheltered environment, if you like, in a pub.
But I understand she is driven by her fear for Kelly's future. Kelly, have you thought what would happen if your mother wasn't around? What would your life be like?
I don't know that one. I don't know. It's so difficult. I don't know. I can't think on that one.
Kelly and others like her need to be part of a protected community, where they have a sense of shared responsibility, independence and purpose. There are a limited number of such communities, all of which are funded and run by charities. We need more of these, but more importantly, a reassessment of what care in a community really means, especially when that community rejects you